very big, good welcome to you all. Thank you very much for tuning in, listening. We appreciate you very much for listening to all of our words, all of the journey that we've been on.
It's been a beautiful journey, man.
Oh, it's so exciting. I just love sitting here talking.
Oh, it's a beautiful experience, man. It's beautiful. You know, we talk about it all the time. It's just a beautiful opportunity each week to just check in, be present, and just shoot the shit.
Oh, yeah. Shoot the shit. That's so good. I love that. We shoot the shit, just openly, authentically. Welcome to Journey with Michael and Ryan.
Welcome.
We've got a very beautiful treat for you this week. We are going to be diving into relationships.
Such a massive topic, isn't it?
Yeah. I think just ships in general, because relationships encompass all. It's, you know, romantic relationships, friendships, family ships, situationships, all of the ships, I think.
Definitely, man. And well, I guess it's just something that's just so true to life in general, because it's such a huge part of the human experience as relationships, and the relationships that we have internally with ourselves and the relationships that we have with other people. You know, when we're looking at the different like pillars of health and well-being, our social connections and relationships and the way that we manage those and understand them and communicate them and express ourselves is such a key aspect.
The thing with relationships too, they're the key drivers for our own internal triggers, because of the depth of the vulnerability and the intimacy within the ships themselves. They become our mirrors, our deep mirrors, regardless of whatever ship it is, because you're connecting with people on levels. You're being seen by that person, and then it's the check-in of, what am I allowing that person to see, or am I holding things back, or am I not saying things? And it's this continual process of growth within a relationship, within the ship. And it intrigues me. It intrigues the hell out of me, really. I really enjoy diving into this. I'm enjoying the deep learning I've gone down, and then just in relationships in general, just within my life, of just how they are my biggest teachers.
Definitely. And it's like you can think you're doing okay when you're just out there on your own doing your own thing, and then you get into a relationship or you go home and see your family, and really where you're at gets shown straight away.
What does Ram Dass say? He says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend 48 hours with your parents.
Definitely.
I totally agree to that.
Yeah.
You know, we do a lot of work on ourselves, and you know, you go home for a weekend and it's just like, wow, where did this little boy come from?
For sure. Well, that's something that's like a little thing that always pops into my mind is when we're talking about family and connection and stuff like that. It's like they created the buttons, so they know how to push them. You know, you think you step away from it for a while and you step back in and you're like, pap, 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 pap. You're like, oh my God, I thought I was doing okay.
You can only go so far yourself. You know, it's definitely something that I've realized now. You know, you can go and do all your own work by yourself, and I say that I've said this quite a bit. You know, you could go to South America, you could go do ayahuasca every day for 12 months, but yet a deep conscious relationship will still be your biggest tool for you to go into your unmet needs, to go into your triggers, to be a true mirror that's showing you what you need to see or what you fail to see, and what's kind of residing around in your subconscious there.
Definitely. And yeah, I suppose even when we're talking about relationships, it's such an interesting topic for me personally, because I guess I hold relationships so dear to my heart. And it's not about having lots of relationships with many different people. For me personally, it's like, because I'm naturally more introverted, it's really about having really deep relationships with the people that are close to me. And even having deep, and even as I've started to grow and expand and learn more about myself and become more open and honest and like work through a lot of these triggers, even it's really finding me going back and really respecting the relationship that I have with my parents. Like really, really, really respecting that, and like wanting to spend time with them and wanting to know what's going on with them, wanting to know how they are. So it's been a beautiful evolution. It's been a beautiful evolution because I've never really had, well, like everyone, we don't really have close relationships with our parents because there's all these things that we worked through when we were younger, and it can be such a hard thing to navigate because we can hold on to a lot of resentment, especially when we are working through our shit, because we have to put blame on our parents, you know. Something I was talking with a friend with the other day, so we were talking about forgiveness, and it's like you can't forgive someone until you actually blame them for what they did, you know. And he sort of took a step back. He's like, can you say that again? And I was like, you can't forgive anyone until you blame them first. And it means you actually have to go into it. You have to blame your parents. You have to blame past relationship. You have to blame yourself, you know, so that you can ultimately forgive. Otherwise, you're just putting a Band-Aid over a crack, you know, because you haven't actually acknowledged what's going on or what happened to you.
It's not a... Yeah, it's an interesting shadow, isn't it? The blame. Yeah, we take lots of people through the blaming process, through rebirthing, breath work, and it is quite confronting when people feel that they need to find the blame, or there's a part of themselves that holds on to blame, and yet they will avoid it. And it is a deep part of the process, because once that's moved out of the way, then there's room for love. And the love's always there, but it's just the room for forgiveness. And you don't love somebody any less because you have to blame them for what they've done to you and for you. It's just part of that process that there's going to be intrinsically within the human spectrum of humanness, emotions, that's going to be part of it.
Definitely.
You know, most of the time.
Most of the time, definitely. I mean, there's always going to be aspects of it where it isn't relevant, but we're just talking in general. For now, and it's like as you go through your own growth and development, it's like it takes courage to have the conversation that you know you need to have with someone and actually be like, hey, look, when this happened, you hurt me in this way. And you're not doing it from a place of spite or to create divide. You're actually doing it because you're full of love, and you want there to be authenticity in the relationship. You know, you want there to be a deepening, so you have to say the things that haven't been said before. And it's really beautiful because the story you create around certain situations are always going to be worse than what actually happens, you know? And I always found it really, really... I'll talk into my relationship with my dad for a little bit. I always found it really, really hard to connect with him. Because we are ultimately different people. We have different likes and dislikes, and there was lots of conflict as we were growing up, and I always blamed him for it. But realistically, as we've had these conversations, as we've started to grow and like connect deeper, and as I lived at home for 3 years while I was studying naturopathy and like helping him with his own health struggles, we had these opportunities to have these deeper conversations and talk about some of the things that we went through when we were younger. And you think that they're doing these things to hurt you, but when realistically they're doing these things to just really support you. You know, the reason that my dad wasn't there is because financially he was trying to create a better life for us. You know, he was working long hours all the time and wasn't present because he was wanting to create a relationship that or a situation for us that he never had as a kid.
It's the driver of lack, that he didn't want to be like his parents or his situation, and then that became the aspect and the driver for, well, I'm going to make sure that my family's not like that. And so moving through the blame process of that can then help you see that that's what was going on, and then you can just love them for as they are and who they are unconditionally. But going through that blame process allowed you to part the sea, basically, for you to walk across it.
Definitely. Yeah. It created the divide so that it wasn't so rough when you went through those seas, right?
Yeah. How do you think that has shown up in your romantic relationship?
I think that's... I guess the key here is probably open and authentic communication. That's probably the big thing in my romantic relationship at the moment. And I actually remember a time when my partner first moved in, and she's obviously from Brazil, so she didn't have she has no family ties here, and my family was really, really welcoming to her, especially my dad. My dad loves her, and probably about a month when she first moved in, because me and Van moved in together literally after only knowing each other for 3 months, so the evolution of our relationship was so quick but so natural at the same time. And I remember after me and Van had a disagreement one time, and I was like in my parents' house because we lived out in the back, and he just like pulled me aside and he said, "Remember, she doesn't have anyone in New Zealand, so don't make it harder than it needs to be." And I was like, damn, thank you for that.
That's some solid advice, Marty.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. And then whenever there was conflict, I would always go back to that point, right? Like it's like what she's sacrificing to be in this relationship and stay in New Zealand will forever be greater than really any sacrifice that I'm making, because she could be living in Brazil, she could still be traveling. So just like remembering that aspect or coming back to that point is just always important for me.
It's a beautiful anchor. And for you to sit here, 4 years later and still have that as an imparted wisdom that you anchor back to, because it's those little affirmations that you can hold on to, and it can bring you back through the times of conflict and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's like as you say, it's an anchor. It's a meaningful moment in conversation that I always remember. But those conversations were not always there.
Yep.
And if I didn't have the courage to start having those open and authentic conversations with my dad, he may have never said anything.
Yeah, you gave him the permission to be able to impart some wisdom to you.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're not holding any resentment, so you're not pulling back. You're not thinking that you know better and everything.
Yeah.
It's just, it was man to man at that point.
Definitely. And he was holding me in that state of being a man, being a provider.
Yeah.
Not being a little boy, like stepping up, doing the things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful process. I mean, I know your dad very well, and it's been amazing just since I've known you, just even your evolution and your relationship with him as well, and even him and your mum turning up to our rebirthing event, and going through that and just being massive supporters of us and at Beta, and what a treat that is.
Well, that's what he's been. That's what he worked so hard for.
Yeah.
He worked so hard so that he could be there and support us, and be interested in what we're trying to do. So it is beautiful. It was beautiful to hold them in that space, to have them there, to look into my mum's eyes and have her say that she's proud of me as she's coming out the other side of a rebirth.
Because we're all still seeking validation, whether we... It's just, are you toxically seeking validation?
For sure.
Are you needing that to hold your own worth? Or is it that it's nice to hear that your parents are proud of you for doing something you're working so hard on?
Yeah, and not doing it so that they're proud of me, just doing it because I know it's my dharma and what I'm here for, and getting that acknowledgement. And so that was a beautiful moment, because before I was a naturopath, I was obviously an engineer, like a respected career.
Yeah.
And when I first stepped into naturopathy and stepping out of it, it's something my dad didn't understand. He didn't get it. He just didn't get it. And when I was a coach, and when I was doing all that, sharing things online, I remember having a conversation with him about money once. And I was talking to him about business and things like that, and he just said to me, I see what you're doing, but I don't understand it. Like he couldn't grasp the concept of what I was doing, because it was so outside of the realms of what he grew up around businesses being.
Yeah.
And so it's even now as we grow Beta, I was telling you about some of the opportunities that are coming up, the things that we're doing, the events, the expos, and he's like, man, there's so much potential, there's so much opportunity in this, and he really respects what we're doing.
Yeah, he does. And something that just came to me as well, like I remember when we were going through our rebirthing stuff and going through our parent wounds and things like that, you used to say that, you go, oh, he just doesn't understand, or he doesn't want to either.
Yes.
And then that created more disconnect, because it was a story you held on to. So you're like, well, I'm not going to be bothered sharing with him, because it's just, this is what I'm going to do.
For sure. There was a resentment in it, because throughout all of my life, just longing for that. That was still that longing for validation. But now that the longing's not there, I can just be like, you don't have to understand everything that I'm doing, you know, just support me in doing well, support me in growing, you know, teach me what you know about business, because I always go back to him, tell him what we're doing, like get advice from him, you know, because he's built multiple very successful businesses.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful place to step into.
And what a great place to do your healing for all the other relationships around, because it all stems back to that. I've read a couple of books, really, really amazing books. So one was called Wired for Love by Dr. Stan Tatkin. And another one was called Getting the Love That You Want by Helen Harville Hendricks. And the Wired for Love book, it's powerful, and it goes into creating the couple bubble, you know, different parts of the brain, what's kind of triggered, what's not within the space of conflict, and setting agreements for relationships. So, you know, you're not just kind of at the whim, but it all does stem back from your upbringing through your caregivers or parents. You know, what did you learn, how a relationship was, and then moving into the Getting Love You Want. I mean, the first half of the book is all about, you know, your inner child stuff, the things that that you have acquired as unmet needs, and going and basically that a relationship is there, an intimate romantic relationship is there to finish off your childhood. And so going back or going through the healing process with your parents is healing some of those unmet needs for you to be able to flourish in your outside relationships outside of that dynamic as well. I mean, if you actually think about, you know, they talk about in Getting the Love You Want, they talk about you're being parented by your partner. You know, you think about when you're first in a relationship and you're in that gooey stage and you're just holding each other, and, you know, you're basically getting cradled like a baby. For sure. You know, you're gooing and garring and using these cute little sounds and noises, and that's it's you're just getting parented again. You know, you're falling each other into toddler state for you to go through that, and then ultimately the things that, so the partner that you have, you map the things that you like about your parents and your caregivers upbringing that are within you, but then after, you know, a year or so, the things, they turn into the things that you don't, because those unmet needs start to come out, and it's setting those parameters beforehand, and then obviously doing relationship check-ins to ensure that you're understanding firstly what your attachment style is. So, you know, because we all have an attachment style. I mean, you know, mine's an island. So because of my style of upbringing, I had to become very independent, and that's just the way that I go about in the world, is independence. And so I have the ability to be able to go, cool, no worries, that I will just retreat and I'll go and do my thing, because that's where I feel most safe. And then you've got what's called a wave. You know, so you blow in, you need to hold on, you need to talk about things right then and there, and there can be conflict and dynamics there. So these two books, they really go into those attachment styles and understanding that, and then you can go into actually speaking about it with each other, and as you go and grow together, you know, that's where you keep resetting your agreements within the relationship, going, okay, well, when this happens, I need you to be like this, and then obviously when you are like this, and this is how I need to, and then ultimately you're just going and whittling away those unmet needs till you get to a point of just going, great, you know, the baseline levels have all been kind of there, and now we can just be wizards and witches, you know, together, and just keep following through,
and not being in the relationship for conditions, or by conditions, or working off past programs and past scripts, and trying to fight for something that maybe the other person can't provide.
And also as well having the premise of pre-agreements of how conflict will go, so you can understand each other, what they need. I mean, some people like to have a yell. Some people, when they yell, they shell up. You know, like, what is it? You know, so it's just getting to know about yourself, understanding yourself, and then you get a better idea of what your needs are, and so you can voice them, or they will be seen by your partner as you go together. And I mean, conflict is unavoidable. It's always going to be there. But it can be done in a healthy way,
for sure. And that's probably this is actually something that I'd always like all throughout a relationship. Like the perfect relationship isn't perfect. The perfect relationship's actually quite messy, you know, because you're two separate people coming together. You know, you're two completely different people that have been brought together at a point or a moment or for this lifetime forever. And it's never really going to be perfect, because normally if it's going to be perfect and there isn't a level of conflict or like even just like healthy confrontation, you know, it means that someone's probably not being their authentic self.
Well, they're not dropping into what they need to say.
Yes.
Or they're not dropping into actually feeling the feeling.
Yeah.
Or they're afraid of what they will do if they drop into it. So it's a non-integrated emotion.
Yeah.
Because anger is fearful, because they might go red and say things that they don't necessarily mean, but it's because that they've got to try and make this person hurt as much as they hurt because of the trigger that's come up. And so it's all unintentional, but very all subconscious or unconscious.
Yeah, subconscious or unconscious. And that's quite often the thing, right? When we're having an argument or a disagreement with someone, it's not always about what's going on in the present moment. It can be based on what's happened to us in the past, and we react based on that. You know?
Yeah, my relationships, it's been interesting because I'm in a new relationship now. Mm-hmm. Very exciting, very, very amazing. Just a beautiful woman and very conscious woman. And we're going through the things, and it's beautiful to go through it, especially after, you know, everybody's been on this journey podcast with me from where I was to going through here now. But that's, you know, I did the deep work on that to be able to call in, you know, my new partner, and we actually got into some conflict for the first time on Friday night. We were out at a concert, and it's brought us closer together. Mm-hmm. The next day we were a lot more present in each other's space, and it was a good conflict. It was really good. It was the feelings got felt, the frustrations got exposed, the anger was healthily said and experienced together. But there was one moment, and so this is coming from the learnings I found from my past relationship as well, and from these books here, is, you know, really identifying. I quickly identified, you know, that abandonment is something, you know, that is a strong point in her life, and for most people it is. For most people, what I've realised it is
fear of not being good enough.
Yeah,
you know, and that's why people can stop themselves from actually being themselves in any relationship, right?
Yeah,
it's the fear of rejection.
Yeah,
you know?
And so, you know, we were in the car driving home, and we were kind of, you know, we were in it, and there was a moment there that we were driving, and I just this words came to me and just said, "You need to tell her you're not going anywhere."
Mm-hmm. Oof, I felt that.
Yeah, and so I did. So I sat there and I was like, okay, I've got to say this. And there was still this part of me that was like, you don't want to say that. You know, you want her to sit in this misery. You want her to feel it. And so I just did the masculine thing. I said, no, hold on. And I just said, look, even in this, I just want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I'm not leaving you. I'm committed to this. You can like come at me with what you've got. I will as well, but I'm not going anywhere. And then I didn't say anything, and the next day we were going through it and doing a check-in, and she said that was a really, really important part, because one of her old patterns was just to burn shit down, hurt me, and just so that she could just be as far away from it as possible.
Protection.
And protection. She said that was really a pivotal part, and thanked me for it, and that was a beautiful growth moment for me. Even in that moment, I was like, yep, that's what I need to say, and I said it regardless of how I was feeling. Like, there was the feeling of like frustration and anger and all the conflict emotions running through, and you know, it was all good, but still in the midst of it, I was still like, no, I'm here, like I'm here for this, because it comes down to commitment, right? You're committing to that person, you're committing to the relationship, you're committing to it all. You're committing to the, well, dare I say good or bad, it's just not good or bad, it's the comfortable and uncomfortable. And you can go through these points of conflict or uncomfortability, you know, you're going to come out the other side and you're going to be more connected, because it's those deeper parts that people are more afraid of themselves, because that's where the ice is the most thin, I guess, for all of that. And so it was a beautiful moment, and it was just a lovely step in our development of growing this relationship together. And I was really proud of myself of going through that, still staying as conscious as possible within the conflict, still being in my masculine, to hold the space of, no, I'm not going to fucking leave. I see you, I read you. I'm not gonna leave the spot, because that's what's happened to her multiple times. And just allowing her and myself to be able to transverse through all of that frustration and all of that conflict. And she was, we spoke about it after. She's very afraid of conflict. She said, I don't like it. I said, I'm very adverse to it. As you listeners may or may not think, wow, my God, Mike's adverse to conflict. No, so it's something that I understand that needs to be happening for a growth process, sure. But it can be done. It can be done beautifully with love and with consciousness, and you can feel the things and say the things.
Yeah, for sure. And especially in a new relationship, like, conflict's actually probably important, because otherwise you get stuck in the honeymoon period for too long, and you think things are going to be great forever, without actually learning and understanding that it doesn't need to be great all the time for a relationship to function well. You want to have those depths and understanding, because I guarantee you know more about her now, and she knows more about you. Yep. She knows what your needs are, you know what her needs are, yep. And you can actually understand some of the past traumas that have come from previous relationships. Yep. Because the relationships that we're moving into now are ultimately there to heal the relationships that you've been in before. And if you're doing it in a conscious way, then it can be such an elevator to evolution, because you're just going to keep moving up, keep going up. Yes, it's going to go up and down, but ultimately it's going to go up.
Yep. Yeah. And then the downs are still the ups.
For sure.
Because even though it's uncomfortable in that moment, I made the vow to myself after my last relationship, and done deep healing on that, to never be blindsided by myself again. And that's why I went deep dive. I'm always making words up on this podcast. Stay with me, folks. So I deep dived into, okay, I want to learn about relationships, because I've reflected over. I haven't had many over my life. I was not really a relationship guy, if that's a title. I don't know, but I haven't had many. And the ones I did have were nice, but they were just unconscious. There was no thought to, how do I better a relationship? How do I better myself in a relationship? How can I do a relationship check-in? How do I learn more about this person on a deeper level, rather than just the free flowing of two people coming together, and that's what you're supposed to be doing, and all of that. So with reading these books, and then just listening to lots of different podcasts and other wizards and witches who have so much more experience than I, and listen and learning from them, and it's truly growing my own masculine energy, in that space, because then there's leadership, then there's the ability to not be taking the things personally, because taking it personally means there's a trigger there that's coming up, and that's become more personal now, because it's the subconscious that takes over. And it allows her to drop more in her feminine energy. Even though she was raging, she still could rage safely,
and not have to worry about the rage being met in a toxic way.
Well, that's absolutely right.
And so I think, that's really beautiful, man. And even for me personally, watching you approach this relationship, it's been beautiful to see, because you can see the shifts and changes and lessons that you took from the past relationships and the education that you threw yourself into afterwards. You can see the changes within you.
Yep. Well, even last night, here's a great example. So last night, we both got hectic lives, and she's got a hectic life as well. And so last night we booked in a time. We go, okay, cool. How do we create markers for the relationship? How do we keep this on track? And so we both sat down on the bed, pulled up pens and papers, and we literally wrote down, okay, what are the things we've got booked in our calendar each week that we can't not get out of, but what are the solid things booked in our calendar? So we wrote down my days, her days, and okay, cool, put them in the calendars, shared our calendars with each other so we can see that, okay, what's one anchor point? It's like, okay, well, at this moment, let's have one date night that's blocked in the calendar. Within the date night, there's no social media. Phones are only used if we want to take photos. There's no outside communication, and that's locked in. So we've got that in for Friday nights now, which is really nice, and that's locked away. And then so we kind of came to a little bit more outside view as well. It's like, okay, well, we want to go away for a couple of nights together. What does that look like over a year? What's actually able? And then she goes, oh, what about every 2 months? And I said, look, I want to make sure that I'm able to commit to the thing. Obviously, this is the baseline level. If there's any more, great. But for me, let's do that 4 times a year, so every 3 months.
Yep.
And so every 3 months, there'll be a weekend booked out for a Friday and Saturday night. We'll go away somewhere and do something like that. So we've got that baseline level there now. And then we created morning and nighttime routines. So, obviously that we stick to even when we're not together. So when we are together, we're not just staying up late to try and, so it really started to give us a little bit more scheduling in our relationship. And it felt really good. It felt really good to sit down and go, here's some baselines. We know these are there, and it still allows us to be expansive in our own lives. We talk about this a lot. We're building a big life. And with a big life, there's only so many hours in a day. So you've got to be pretty on point with your scheduling, and you've got to be on point with your communication. And so that was a really awesome thing that we did last night. So we wrote down our morning routines and nighttime routines. What time do we want to go to bed? What time do we want to wake up? So that matches when we are staying together as well.
And that is beautiful. And it's actually something that's probably needed more than anything. Is just like scheduling in time for each other, like making the other person a priority, so much so that they have a space in your calendar. And that might not work for some people, but if you live a busy life and you want to achieve a lot, you've got to have it in your calendar, you've got to have it scheduled. Otherwise it's just not going to happen. You're going to push it aside, and the other person might build resentment, or they're always going to be worrying about when they're actually going to get time with you. So it's a very, I guess, adult way of stepping into the relationship, especially at the start, and creating that sort of framework around it.
Yep. And we both came away from that feeling very good. I felt really good. And then next week what we're doing, and then Friday night as well, we did a relationship check-in, and we sat down and we were just eating dinner, and the moment opened and it flowed, and there were things that she brought out and about me, about where was I faltering, and where was I where were my words and actions not necessarily aligning, and what it is she needs more from me, and vice versa. And there were some things that came out, some pattern things that have constantly come out for me, and it was things about there's I can sit here and speak very open and authentically because I don't feel intimately connected to anyone who's listening. So it's very simple for me. It's like being on stage, right? You're connected to the audience, but you're not intimately connected. And so one of the things she picked up on me was, look, the first couple of weeks you were really open and thing, but as we've gotten deeper into our connection, that seems to have been kind of walling away about me actually sharing how I'm feeling about things. And so I was reflecting on that, and I thought, yeah, that's so true. My ability's there, but there's something deeper in an intimacy level of not wanting to be seen a certain way, or wearing everything on my shoulders, and that can only go so far for so long before you start to implode. And she really held me on the fire on that one, and that was great. And I shared a few things about my feelings and things on different stuff as well, and it was just really nice, and it was deep. So there was a beautiful relationship check-in. So we did that on Friday, did the scheduling on Saturday, and then next weekend what we're doing is taking some advice from Stan Tentkin and creating some relationship agreements. So creating what's called a couple bubble. And so this is all about serving the relationship first. You know, what are actually the agreements that you want to have in your relationship? You know, and it can be as simple as when you're coming together, if you've been apart, you know, regardless of who's in the room or whatever, you meet each other first for a kiss and a connection, and you hug, and you know, and it could be the smallest things like that. But you're setting parameters for your relationship, because then you're not just at the whim of your own subconscious of you know, we all don't want to be our parents, right? We all don't want to have the relationship with our parents, or maybe we do. You know, I'm just speaking for myself here, but I would say most people, you know, want to do their own thing. So how are you going to adjust and get out of that? It's like, well, okay, put some pen and paper down, sit down and have some agreements about what your relationship looks like. Serve the relationship first. There's three entities in a relationship. There's you, your partner, and the relationship. And within that, the polarities of the masculine and feminine really can flow a lot easier, because you're understanding, and then from there you can go into your own needs. You know, what do you need from that person, and they can always evolve as well as you go deeper and deeper, and this can be based off your own attachment style as well. You know, so you can go, hey, look, you know, I'm an island, so if I'm working away on the computer and you're cooking dinner, don't just yell at me and say I need to be at the table right now, because I'm going to be like, no, and I'm going to go, no, and I'll become an island and be like, no, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. Whereas it could be like, hey, a suggestion, hey, dinner's going to be ready in 15 minutes. If you want to come down and eat when you're ready, great. If not, it'll be there available. And it's just understanding that person. And for me, coming up and getting that asked of me, I'll be like, oh, beautiful, thank you. Because A, I'm not being told what to do, and B, it's just a nice suggestion. Whereas I'll then go, oh, okay, cool, I'll just finish what I'm doing, and then I'll go down and have dinner. And that's just a very basic example of my island attachment. But you can go in deep as you want. So, but yeah, you create this couple bubble, and then you can actually write down as well and go into, how is it that we want to act in conflict? How do you want to act in conflict? Because it's just like normal life. When you go into contract with someone, you only ever go into contract with someone when you're happy about something. You know, you sign a house contract when you're amazingly happy because you're buying a house. You know, you go into an employment contract when you're excited about getting a new job. You know, so it's getting that mastery and going, okay, it's not ruining this moment, but knowing the symphony of human emotion is that contracts are there for when, or agreements are there for when things are to go wrong. Yes, they don't feel like they could ever go wrong in this moment, but at some point they will get uncomfortable. So what do you want to do in that? And actually diving into with each other and just go, yeah, are you afraid of conflict? Or how would you like me to respond to you? Or, you know, because if someone's you know, had an upbringing of abuse or something like that, they're not going to want to get yelled at. No, because you're not going to be able to get anywhere.
It just shuts them down. It puts them into fawn. You know,
absolutely
makes them back away, feel unsafe.
Yep. You know, and if there's if they have a bit more of an abandonment issue, it's like, okay, we're getting into conflict now. You know, and a lot of us men like to be like, oh, I'm just going to get out of here and I'll come back later. Okay, cool. You can do that, but you need to damn well say you're coming back.
For sure.
You know, it's like, hey, I'm going to go out and have a half an hour walk. I'm clean my head, but I want you to know that I'm coming back. I'm not running away.
There used to be a really, really strong pattern for me every time me and Van met conflict, because I hated conflict. I didn't have a good relationship with it. I couldn't find my words. I would always either get shut down or overly angry, and I would always just walk out and slam the door behind me. And that was something that took a while for us to work through. Took a while for me to understand the impact that it was actually having on our relationship, because there is that idea of abandonment. You know, there is that past relationships where my partner had to leave because her partner wasn't serving her. You know, but then once we could get to that point, or I got to that point where I was and just stuck with it and sat with it and didn't just keep running away from conflict, it meant that we could deeper into the conversation as it was alive.
But even the door slamming's a toxic trait, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's power over force, equating force to power, like scare this person into submission,
For sure.
scare this person into my will by slamming a door and creating a loud sound, and these are the toxic traits which are mostly in men. Obviously women have their own toxic traits, but we'll speak on the men aspect of side because we are men ourselves. And something I've been coming across quite lately as well is just, and it's really starting to not get to me, but I just see it so much more and more now. Is just this is such shitty behavior from men,
Such
shitty behavior from men, and it's showing up even in this new relationship of mine. Past shitty men behaviors, toxic traits, narcissistic, disorders have been imprinted so deeply and heavily that it's affecting my relationship.
Yeah. Well, and she's lucky enough that you're healed a lot of those aspects of yourself so that you can actually support her in healing those too, and it's a conversation we have multiple times around men and the way that they show up in this world, and just use and abuse and manipulate, and it's like they're just out there to hurt, because they don't have that ability within themselves to have the conversations and actually take some fucking responsibility for their actions and the way in which they're showing up, allowing themselves to be strong enough to be a man, and be vulnerable enough to have those conversations and take ownership for the way in which they're showing up.
Yeah. I'd like to make a little side mention here too. We're not shaming men here. It's just a pure frustration because of the amount of work we've done with clients and the amount of work we've done. Like, maybe I've mentioned this on here before or not, but I would say, and this is no exaggerating, I mean, out of the hundreds of clients we've rebirthed, I can probably count on one hand how many women haven't had abuse, haven't had sexual abuse, haven't had some sort of physical or emotional or financial abuse in their life, and it's fucking sickening.
It's hard to sit with and hear all the time. It is.
All the time, and it grates me. It grates me. It's a driver for our work,
for sure,
but it does grate me, and it's just the little things as well. It's holding your brothers to a higher account when they're doing something that they may not even know and probably don't even know is an overbearing step against women. It could be just a little.
It's the snarky comments.
It's the snarky comments.
It's the belittling.
All of it. All of that. It's such a wounded place because it's what they've got taught. Yeah. I'm always speechless. It's hard to talk about because we are men. And I'm not saying that we are perfect. It's certainly not that, but we show up in the way of our perfectly imperfectness just as we are and as we are growing and as we're going, and we hold other men to account, especially men who are friends with us and close to us, and in a healthy way though. It's hey, look, that's not
okay.
on.
Or have you thought about maybe communicating it this way, or when was the last time you've acknowledged your partner for this certain thing? All of it adds up, and it really is about seeing your queen as a fucking queen. She deserves to be respected. She deserves you to be there, to be present, to still work hard, and provide financially and all of that. And I suppose that does make it, as men, we have a lot on our shoulders.
Yes,
that's because we have big fucking shoulders.
Yep.
And there's a lot to carry.
Yep.
And we do have to step up to be able to do it all.
Yep. But be led by your queen's intuition.
Oh, for sure.
Like you can be a total dominating masculine force within your relationship, but when it comes down to your queen's intuition and you understand that they know, then you listen to it. That's the true king and queenship there.
For for sure. That's when the polarities work so well together. It's well, let's talk into this, man. What if we've got some people out there listening, and maybe they're in a troubled relationship that's reasonably toxic. They've been in it for a while. They don't know how to communicate, or even how to start the conversation. Or maybe they're even a little fearful because of the mistakes that because of the things that they've done in the past that they know that they've hurt their partner about, and there's fear of actually being like, I have to own that. How can they start that conversation in a healthy way where it doesn't just turn into another potential argument? How do you really frame that ability to have that conversation that you've never had before?
It's a great place to start. I think it's got to start with you. You can't wait for the other person to initiate it. You can't just go, well, if they're going to be like that, I'm going to be like this. It's got to be a willingness for you to see and want to change. And if that willingness is there, then you've got to feel every bit of the edge of you having to say, or getting to say, hey, I would like to sit down and have a conversation with you. I would like to share with you where I am at. And this is something I'm constantly working on myself.
For sure.
That can be some of the hardest things as men to really go into and start with that. It could start with having a conversation with another brother of yours, you know. But I mean, if you've got all the same types of people around you as well, they're only going to give you, you know, toxic advice based off their own paradigms, I guess. But yeah, that's a really interesting. It's a really interesting voice note there, because I mean, you know, it'd be easy enough to say, oh, just sit down with them and just share where you're at. But that's not fucking easy.
No, that's hard.
That's the hardest thing that they'll go and do. And then they'll retract back and fall back into, if anything is said back to them, they'll get triggered and whatever. So I guess seeking out outside help.
Yep.
I guess starting to read books, you know, go and grab, you know, the 2 books I've recommended. I'll put them in the show notes. You know, you can start on your own. You know, listen to more podcasts like this. You know, reach out to us if you want more, you know, relationship styled people. We can send you the people that we learn from. So you know, you can start with yourself.
Yeah.
You can start with yourself and just know that there's a better way of doing things. There's a better way of treating your partner.
Yeah.
And that can be on the woman's side as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going down the path of, are you stuck in a toxic narcissistic relationship and your safety is constantly being intruded upon and things like that? Well, I mean, that you've got to think, you've got to get out, but that's easier said than done, right? I mean,
that's why you need help.
You need help. You need to reach out. You need to reach out to somebody. You need to get a message out. You know, I mean, we're seeing it before our very eyes at the moment, aren't we? You know, just what deep trauma bonds will do, and it's really interesting to watch and observe, and even on our side of the receiving of just going, we love this person. They know exactly where we stand. We've given them all the advice and answered the questions back and forth, but yet the choice was still made to go. So it's still ultimately being, hey, we are here. The space is here, you know, for if and ever when you need it.
And maybe you don't.
And maybe you don't, you know.
It's just knowing that the love is there and the support is there, and just knowing that person has someone to go to, or there is, I guess, a safe place for them.
Yeah.
And I suppose just for me, when we're probably talking about that, and what you said before, like start with you is probably the most important thing.
I think so.
You know, you don't have to dive straight into having that confronting conversation after you've maybe are in a toxic relationship, or even you're in a relationship and it's not toxic, but you just want to deepen it a little bit more. You want to understand your partner a little bit more. That really just starts with you understanding yourself. You know, understand who you are, understand what you like, understand what you actually want from the relationship. And that doesn't necessarily need to start with a conversation. That just starts with you doing some journaling.
Yep.
You know, just reflecting on the aspects of your relationship where you're not showing up, you know, and where you can clearly see that. You know, maybe you're causing arguments or causing fights or not supporting your partner in like just the small things, the chores. And maybe your finances aren't they're great enough so that your partner has the security in that. You know, maybe you're spending all your money on cigarettes and piss and junk food instead of putting it aside to be able to support the relationship, you know, to be able to have the nights out and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably the most important place to start. And then as you start to become more comfortable with
yourself.
Yourself and your desires, you know, energetically, your partner's going to notice those shifts.
Yep.
You know, they're going to notice that you're making more of an effort, that you're not being as reactive or judgmental or critical, or that you're even going into sex with a different energy.
Yep.
You know, not just to finish and come, but to actually just be there, present, in pleasure with your partner. You know, and then you can start to have those conversations and being like, okay, look, hey, I've been doing some reflecting. This is actually like, what do we want from this relationship?
Yeah.
You know, because if you're going to be with someone for life, I mean, this is my own personal belief. If you're going to be with someone for your life, it's like you've got to know what they want from it.
Yep.
You've got to know what support they need. You know, you've got to know what they're struggling with, or the things that they actually want to do. You know, otherwise you're just two people that live under the same roof.
Yep.
That are just
hitting each other with each other's triggers.
Yeah,
and not actually working through them, just staying in that cycle of trauma attachment.
That's it. Just trauma bonded.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's great advice, because every situation is different, right? You know, but there's so much information out there. There's so much information. You can just start on yourself. There's so many YouTube, there's so many Instagram relationship coaches now. Like there's so many good books, you know. So if you really want to have the willing to change, you know, then just start to seek it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And then if you're doing the work on yourself and it's not met and it's okay, well then that's when you can start making some decisions on whether or not this actually relationship is for you, or you've actually outgrown it together.
Sure.
And you know, then possibly you could, you know,
you've got to step away and
step away.
Yeah, you've got to. And I will say that because of a past relationship that I was in. I will say that past relationship that I was in, because when I was in a more unconscious place, the relationship essentially just dragged on because I wasn't man enough to break it off.
Yeah.
You know, so it just ended up being more toxic and more toxic. I hurt this person more than I needed to. She hurt me more than she needed to, just because there wasn't that courage to actually be like, hey, look, we had a beautiful relationship for a period, but that period's now over. And for us to actually expand as humans, for us to grow, for us to learn more about ourselves, for us to have our needs met, the best thing for us is to actually break up. You know, and we were lucky enough at the time that there was no kids, there was no real financial connection or attachment or anything like that. And unfortunately, that relationship did end in a toxic way, merely because I didn't have the courage to be a man and end it when it needed to end.
Yeah.
And so it's like honoring that within yourself. You know, why is it that you're actually in the relationship, even if it is like shit? Are you just in it because there's fear of what someone might think if you were to break up, you know? Yeah. There's fear of stories of maybe needing to stay into a relationship because your parents were divorced. You know, why is it that you're actually holding on to something that's not working and you're not willing to do work on just for the sake of staying in the relationship?
Yeah, that's solid. What's a good way to break up, you think?
I don't think I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Because it's a massive part of the journey.
For sure.
Is the breakup.
I think it's that idea of, well, when you look at it, it's like if you can do it from a healthy way, then it's not really a breakup, right? Like you're just
uncoupling,
uncoupling or decoupling. You know, because it's actually then it's both a conscious choice from either sides, just being like, hey, look, this worked, it no longer works, let's just go and live our life separately.
Yeah, very true. And that's going to be the most uncomfortable stuff, but you can get the most growth from that as well. Well, not the most, you can get solid growth from that. I know I did, and I felt it to the depths, and then I got right through it, and it was done.
Well, because you had to, right? You know, it was something that was good, but there was things that were always going to hold it back. And you being a man, you were like, hey, look, it's got to be finished. Yeah.
And but when it was actually solidly done energetically within myself, you know, like it just gave me room for my new partner to turn up and for me to be able to go fully into that, and then all my lessons of commitment were there, and it's like, yes, felt into it, the power was there, and now I've chosen to fully commit into it with this person on all levels. And so the uncomfortable, harder times are okay, because that's what you commit to. You commit to the whole thing. You can't just commit to the good things. And if you find that you're just committing to the good things, well, then you've got to have a little bit of a check-in with yourself. For sure, definitely. And just go, okay, what's going on here? You know, if you're in that paradigm of, all right, going to be in a honeymoon period for 3 months, and then it just kind of drops off. It's, you know, you could, you know, with all the things I've spoken about earlier and learning from these, you know, awesome people, you know, you could be in a you know, I'm doing air quotes here, in a honeymoon period for your whole relationship, because even when you are going through tougher times, because it's still connecting, it's still growing, you know, everything's still moving, you still have a vision together, you're still being two separate people, but coming together to make a better existence for you both.
For sure, definitely. And it's like me and Van have been in a relationship for 4 years and we still have conflict.
Yeah.
We'll never stop having conflict.
No.
Because we're both driven, passionate, different people that have come together on this life journey, you know?
Well, you even look at our friendship, you know, like it's super deep and it's super amazing. We've got lots of things we're creating together. You know, we're in a relationship with each other. If you want to look at it that way, you know, we still have conflict. We still bring things up, but it's done very healthily, and it's done very in a, you know, we're two masculine men just going into it and just going, cool, let's have that. Okay, let's sit down. Let's talk about this. You know, and you and I, we go through levels, you know. One time, you know, there'll be a course that I'm pulling you up by your hair, and then there'll be a time that you'll be pulling me up by my hair.
Sure.
But we're just driving each other for growth.
100%.
We're driving each other to be better men for the others around us and for ourselves. And it gets noticed. God, it gets noticed everywhere we go.
Definitely.
Even just this podcast, the amount of feedback we get just from you and me speaking so truly and openly and authentically. I mean, that's a big part of that is because of our friendship, because it is such a pillared friendship.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like even some of the things that you were talking about, like the relationship chickens, or even you saying, I'm in it for I'm fucking in this.
Yeah.
100%. You know, all of these different things that we've talking about are very similar conversations that we have in our own relationship.
Correct.
You know, we had conflict the other week and we felt it, we seen it, we knew that there was something that wasn't being said between both of us. Yep. And then we just sat down and be like, what do you need?
Yep.
What am I not doing for you? What are you not doing for me? Yep. How can we resolve that? And then we just move forward. We move on.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And we you know, we did a very very masculine thing. Like, okay, cool. What are the things we're putting in place right now? And we did. Did. Right. Like that's who we are.
For sure.
And it's been flowing amazingly. We've got, you know, beautiful expansion from that, and things have been happening, and it just goes. You know, it will happen again. You know, like the amount of time we spend with each other, and the bigness of the things that we are creating. Of course, it's going to be that, but it's something that we're not afraid of. You know, like it's just, we know that's part of it, and we know it through the other side of that, that there's going to be more expansion. You know, and it's a beautiful reframe. It's a beautiful paradigm from how I used to be as a younger guy, and even just having that deep male friendship. You know, God, we tell each other we love each other every day. You know, we hug each other every day. You know, like it's a beautiful openness, and that just, you know, it creates the energy and the space for the others. I mean, the amount of epic humans that are just just popping into our life, left, right, and center. And it's just, that's the power of a strong, healthy masculine energy, to allow others to firstly to lead, and then to provide and to create spaces for people, but then obviously falling into our feminine energies when we want to play and just be silly. And again, this is something I'm more working on than you, but I'm aware of it. It's okay.
Well, you're a big fucking Viking. They weren't out there playing when they were fucking cutting off people's heads. It's a little bit more ingrained.
When the Christians come, don't worry, you'll be calling upon me. You won't be asking me to fucking to do it with play, but I have a damn smile on my face. Yeah, it's but again, as you say as well, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you've got amazing friendships, but yet your relationship is in tatters, well, you've got to have a look at why. Are you allowing your friends to be at a deeper level? And if not, why?
Yeah.
Or are you at a deeper level with your friends and you are keeping your partner at arm's distance and not allowing them in, or some sort of combination of both?
It's an interesting one. I guess there's a school of thought when it comes into like the relationship, you're quoting, and into like the relationship coaching world, where the masculine doesn't share their emotions with their partner. And it's something that I was having a conversation with one of my clients once about, and it was just one of those things. I was just like, why does it have to be a thing? You can be both. So why is it that you shouldn't be allowed? Because he was essentially told he's not allowed to share his emotions with his partners. His relationship is a relationship. If he has something that he wants to share or talk about deeply and emotionally, he does it with his friends. And I was like, for me, that seems so fucking broken.
It's
and
very
so
broken.
Fucking backwards. And if anything, it's just going to create even more of a divide in your relationship, because you can still be a provider. You can still show up. You can still be fucking strong. But you can still hold your partner in a space of softness and let them know who you truly are. Yeah. And it was just one of those things that just didn't make any fucking sense to me.
I guess there's a lot of shitty advice out there too, peeps.
For sure.
There really is. Like that's just plain shitty advice. Like that's someone who has no idea what they're talking about.
The worst thing is, Mikey, is a fucking huge following.
Yeah. Yeah,
this guy has a huge following,
but
because it's so polarizing, that's why I think people like it so much.
There's an unhealedness to that.
For sure. There's
some wounding there. There's a feminine wounding there on that person's part.
Yeah.
Ultimately don't trust the feminine with your emotions. Go and talk to the boys about it.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't make sense. The person you're choosing to commit to it's going to be your best friend,
for sure,
as well. Don't just label it as a relationship partner. It's like that's a friendship you're developing as well.
Definitely. And then the thing that also makes me think is because then other advice the man gives is you have to expect your partner to come to you when she has something she needs to drop into.
That's a complete disconnect from the understanding of feminine and masculine polarity.
Hugely, because it's like you allowing yourself to be vulnerable then gives your partner permission to feel safe enough to share. And it's like, for me, that makes it's an easy concept to grasp.
You're deepening trust.
Yeah.
So without that, you're not. How are you deepening trust?
If they know nothing about you,
and they hear that you are talking about your things to your mates and not this person who you're in this. Yeah, that doesn't sit well with me at all.
For sure.
Yeah. So that's a definite wounding there. But I guess that's potentially someone who doesn't understand the polarities of the masculine and feminine either. Like taking that leadership and that providing concept, but on a
taking it far too literally.
Yeah, on an objective level,
for sure,
rather than the subjective level of safety and trust, of guidance.
We're going to have a balance of masculine and feminine in every single body.
Yeah.
You're never 100% one or 100% other.
No.
And more likely than not, if you're 100% one, it's probably going to be because it's a trauma response.
Yes.
You know, it's when you can learn to dance between the energies yourself and knows when they need softness, knows when they need leadership, and even having that dance and play within a relationship as well. You know, there's times when it's better when Van leads,
Yep.
you know, than it is for me to lead. So for me to be even just a true leader in that, it's actually acknowledging it and stepping back so that she can step up and flourish.
Yep.
You know, and then there's times where I have to lead. And it's learning to have that dance with your partner. And if you don't have that communication, you don't know your partner intrinsically, then how can you really do that?
Yeah. But again, it's the trust.
Trust.
It's the deep trust and the deep knowing of yourself and what you need and how to ask for it. It's a big thing. Hey, I'm not feeling absolutely 100% today. Can you please make some decisions? You know, even me on my manifestor design, on my human design, I'm a manifester. So my design is to initiate everything. So being in that kind of more dominant play, that masculine play, for me to initiate things, great. That's it. But you know, there's lots of times where I need to go into some rest periods as well. So I need to get better at going, hey, look,
asking for rest.
I need rest. Can you please, even if I want to potentially have sex or something like that, it's like, hey, can you please initiate it tonight? You know, and so, but that's a dance I'm getting, you know, more used to. But then there's times that my partner, she's asked me to step up more as well. She's, you know, because we're still just going through it. You know, this is when you're getting deeper and deeper with someone, and you know, there's a couple of times in the last few days she's gone, hey, look, I need you to be more dominating and leadership. No,
More of a leader.
More of a leader in these things when I am like this.
Yes.
And it was a part of not being able to fully receive something I was offering. And she reflected on it and came to me today and said, oh, hey, look, this again goes back to her past relationships of toxic relationships, you know, abusive relationships where financial means were given and then taken away, and you know, all of that control aspect through all of that. And so a couple of times I've just said, oh, hey, go and do that, and you know, I will I'll help you out with that or whatever. It's, oh no. So it became a hyper dependence. And so, yeah, and then so because she knows herself and she goes, hey, look, I need you to actually just push back a little bit harder and just ensure that, you know, that now you know about my kind of hyper dependence and these things and my triggers from that. And so now I know, now I learn. It's like, okay, cool. I'll push back a little bit harder and go, hey, no. This is what I'm offering. Go and take this, so you can go and do that, because it's safe and it's not, and it's a receivership and not expectation of anything in return. You know, I'm not going to fill you up with financial gains and then pull them away for you to be attached to me and through that narky type personality.
Yeah, definitely. And it's it's relationships can I suppose be as beautiful as you allow them to be, and expansive as you want them to be, because all throughout that it all just come back to like communication, right? Yeah. And being able to navigate change, because your partner's going to change. They're never going to be the person that you first like fell in love with, because intrinsically we're constantly shifting, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing, we're constantly moving through past traumas, and overcoming these aspects of ourselves, and shedding skins and death, births, all of it. You know, so it's about being okay with your partner changing, being okay with them growing, being okay and actually wanting it to happen. You know, allowing the relationship and enabling that growth to happen. You know, so it might mean you have to call your partner out on some bullshit that they're doing. Yeah. And being okay with that. Yep. You know, holding them into a higher standard, be like, hey, look, I see this as a pattern within you. What can we do to work through this? Or what support do you need? Do you actually even notice it? Yep. You know, and just having that open communication around it. Yep.
and us as men always like to fix things as well.
For sure.
That wants to be our go-to because actually it can keep them there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Now let me give you 3 things, and this is something my dad's very good at, and this is something I picked up a lot of, and he still does it even if I'm coming and talking to him. Instead of just being like, boom, he'll be like, well, why don't you go do this, this, and this? You know,
straight into action.
Straight into action, right? You know, I mean, it's part of my makeup, but. Going into something, so if your partner's coming to you and going, hey, look, this and this happened, or I had this type of day, or maybe they're in tears, something's got them going, or something like that. Something very simple you can ask is, hey, is this something you'd like me to help you fix, or is this something you just want me to listen to? And like just a simple sentence like that, it's so disarming for yourself. You're getting clear on being told what to actually do. Because we've said this before. All you have to do is just fucking listen. They will tell you every single thing that they want to happen. Women are amazing at telling you what they want. For sure. Just fucking listen. Guys, shut the fuck up. Just listen. Listen to your partner. Listen to your woman.
Yeah.
You know, and again, we're only speaking from our own point of view. And that's what we've always done here. But guys, just listen to your woman. They will tell you everything.
For sure.
You know? But a little simple sentence like that, is this something you'd like me to help you fix and give you ideas on, or would you like me to just sit here and listen? And it's those little tiny little things that will add up to the biggest things.
For sure.
You know, you're in an argument. Hey, I know we're pissed off at each other right now, but I'm not leaving. You know? And if I do, I'm telling you I'm coming back.
For sure.
You know?
Reassurance. Yeah, for sure.
Because that's safety. Create that safety, because it gives you safety as well.
Yeah,
because it's like you feel more masculine when you are doing that, because that's leadership. You are holding that. You are, even though you're feeling something, fucking frustration, anything, or sadness, grief, whatever it is, you are still making a conscious choice to make that person feel amazing. For sure. Or feel safe.
Yeah. And you're going to show up more in a relationship when you know that person's going to be there through thick and thin.
And do you know what? They're going to trust you a shitload more very quickly.
For sure.
And if you can get deeper trust, you are getting all of it.
All of it.
And then you want to talk about having amazing sex? That's where it comes from.
For sure.
It comes from that.
100%.
You know, deeper trust, deeper the lust.
Oh, yes.
You know?
Oh, I like that.
You want to start exploring.
Just make a t-shirt out of
The
that.
deeper the trust, the deeper the lust, yeah. You want to start exploring different sexual dynamics. You want to start exploring different polarity plays, tantra, BDSM, whatever you want to go down to. That's all trust. And then that intrinsically creates more trust as well when you're going into that different BDSM polarity play and
deeper
and
trust,
all that.
deeper communication, asking for what you fucking want.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It is beautiful. And man, relationships they are beautiful.
They are so amazing.
I'm grateful for the women that we have in our lives.
We have amazing women. We have amazing people in our lives.
For sure.
You know? To all the people in our lives, we fucking love you.
We fucking love you, every single one of you.
Oh, yeah.
And all of you is welcome here.
All of you is welcome. That's going on a t-shirt, man.
Yeah.
That's our t-shirt. And you start showing up like that in the most intimate relationships of your life. You watch your life change. You watch the people change in your life. You want your parents to be different. That's fucking how you change them. Because you start showing up different.
Be different, yeah.
You know, you can start having these adult conversations with them. You can start being in vulnerability with them. It will force them to change. It will force them to shift. You're not falling back to those teenage combative programs that are in you. And that's, you know, your reality literally changes around you because of relationships.
Definitely.
And it's so exciting and it's so amazing. It's so powerful. And you can just have such deep relationships with people.
Fucking
You know, regardless whether you're having sex with them or not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, intimacy, the eros of life is all. You know, like it's... and this is what we've said a few times, like, guys, you know, when's the last time you've told another guy friend you love them?
Ooh.
You know, like
Like, just go and say it, because we want to feel the love just as much as everyone else.
Fucking no.
You know?
Fucking no. We want to feel safe. We want to feel secure.
You know, I guarantee you the Vikings on the battlefield told each other they loved them before they went into battle. I guarantee you all the guys on the front line in any war have told the men that they've, told their brothers beside them that they love them before they go and do something.
Because they know they're in it for thick and thin.
They've got their back, right? They're creating that trust. And it's love. Love is trust. Just because we have a comfortable existence now doesn't mean you've got to shy away from it. Like, go into it. You want to change the world? You want to make this place a better place? Do it with love. Do it with trust. Do it with openness. Do it with authenticity. You know?
Full conviction, full commitment to yourself and the people around you, and just your relationship. All of it. Because you want to come home to something that you're fucking loving every single night.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then ask a question in yourself. What can you change? What can you do fucking better?
Fucking A, what can you do? Not what that person can do. What can you do?
Fucking A.
You know, what's this mirror showing you of where you need to go, what you need to do?
And then do it.
And do it.
And then do it. Don't just sit in the idea of coming up and thought that this is going to change it. No, you need to fucking change. If you want your life to change, you need to fucking change, and you need to take fucking responsibility for the way in which you're showing up.
Yep, the women of this world need it, guys. They fucking need it.
They do, and they fucking deserve it. Every single one of them.
Oh yeah, they really do. You know, go talk to your sisters. Go talk to your brothers. You know, create those connections. We fucking need it. It really is. That's the change. That's the change through intimacy. Into me I see.
Into me I see.
Into you I see. You know, it's all good, and from there you will see the shifts.
Yeah, from there Eros always wins, baby.
Beautiful, brother.
Beautiful, brother. Well, I love you, brother.
Well, I love you too. We love you.
We love you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
If you want to dive deeper into this, you want to go through your different programs, traumas, blocks, whatever. You know, you can reach out to me, Ryan. Come and do some rebirthing breathwork with us. Guarantee you'll visit them. You'll move through them.
You'll find the root.
Yep. We've done it to hundreds of people already. We help them. Anyways, team, it's been a beautiful, beautiful week. Subject close dear to our hearts.
Very much so.
Next week we're gonna have another podcast next week.
Another beautiful podcast next week, and the week after that.
Yeah,
and sticking around.
By the time this comes out, we're gonna have our supplements there.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so jump onto the show notes, grab those, team. Yeah, we're changing the world one little product at a time as well.
And jump into the community.
Oh yeah.
Jump into the next state change program, because that is going to shift you. That is going to change you.
The community that's being built from that is just so fucking good.
It's beautiful.
It's so good.
It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing to see birth, man.
Oh yeah, and it's free. Jump on. There's an initiation process, but that's your ticket into it. It's simple enough, but it's enough of an edge for you to go into it.
For sure.
But once you're in, we give you the tools. It's free. You get a rebirth breathwork at the end. And you're in this community, this communitas of all these amazing people who are just showing up and just speaking openly and vulnerably. If you're a guy, if you're a girl, and you don't know where to start, well, that's a perfect place to start. You know, jump on. We'd love to have you there.
We would love to have you there.
Until next week, team. We'll see you then.
All right, we'll see you later.